All right, hi. Today is a little bit different. We are going to go over, we're going to celebrate Veterans Day. If you didn't know, I am a veteran, and the school, if you're an e-learner, is doing a Veterans Day ceremony this morning, so I'm going to give my Veterans Day little experience to my brick and mortar kids today, so that's why, even though it's not technically Veterans Day yet, that's why I'm doing this today. First, I'm just going to cover some quick little facts. So Veterans Day is not Memorial Day. Veterans Day celebrates all veterans, while Memorial Day is in memory of veterans who lost their lives. So Veterans Day is not for people who lost their lives, it's for all veterans, while Memorial Day is specifically for that. All right, it was originally called Armistice Day, commemorating the end of World War I. So November 11th, so 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. was when the end of World War I was declared, and so that's why it's on that day. Um, did you know that 17.4 million people in the United States are veterans? That's a big number. And just to kind of break it down, the one on the left shows you veteran enlistment recruits by state. So for example, if you look at Florida, we're at 6,000. We're really high, where Maine, for example, is between 0 and 2,000, right? California had the largest number with 19,500 recruits. This is in 2018. Texas had the second largest at 18,670, and Washington, D.C. had the fewest recruits at 93. That's kind of crazy. And then if you've ever wondered, because we've got several branches of the military, right? So the Coast Guard is the smallest branch with 3% of our military active duty personnel. Marine Corps has 14%. The Air Force and the Navy have the same. They're both 24%. And then the Army is 35% of our active duty personnel. Again, this is in 2018. Female versus male is kind of interesting. So they always call them the 1%ers, but really only 1.4% of females have, that should say served. Typo. Served. And 13.4% of males have served in the United States military. So quite a difference there. All right, so I'm just going to talk about my personal experience in the military. I joined the Army when I was 19 years old. I had gone to college for a year and did not know about FAFSA, did not have any grants, was paying out of pocket. My parents were not wealthy, so I was paying for it myself. So I found myself in debt, and I was really burnt out because I was trying to work full-time as well. And it was really hard. And I went actually with my friends on a road trip and watched some of their friends graduate basic training. And they were all really excited because they were going to different parts of the world. All of them were assigned to like all different places. It was really cool. And they were talking about how they were going to be able to go to college for free. And I wanted to do that. And they were just really proud of what they were about to do. And so I wanted to do something that I was proud of. I was really burnt out, like I said, and it seemed like an adventure. So 2 weeks later, I left. I went home, signed up, and shipped out within 2 weeks. Basic training for me is 10 weeks. This is a horrifying but accurate picture of me in basic training. So this is a real picture of basic training. Everyone says that basic training is really hard. I don't think it was hard, like, physically. It's more like they try to kind of break you by really just, like, annoying the crap out of you and to see if you'll kind of snap eventually. There are some fun parts. I shot a lot of weapons, so these are all M16, an M9, a 249 Bravo, 240, even a 50 cal. And then, let's see, I threw a grenade. That was probably actually the scariest part, was throwing the grenade. Rappelled down a tower. The gas chamber went through twice. And then this picture is actually from me learning combatives, right? So combatives is, I don't know what it's closest to. It's not karate. Kind of like jujitsu. I'd say it's like closest to jujitsu. After, cut myself off there a little bit, but after basic training, I went to AIT, which is called Advanced Individual Training, or that's what AIT stands for. My job in the military was Imagery Intelligence Analyst, so the training is 8 months. This is a picture of me there. the school has a high failure rate, so if you fail out of the school, they kind of give you a different job to go to AIT for. And I had very limited freedom. So even though I had 10 weeks of basic training, once I got to AIT, I still had several months where I wasn't allowed to do anything. I didn't have civilian clothing, no jeans, couldn't go off base, couldn't go to the mall, couldn't do anything, highly restricted. Over time, you just kind of slowly start to earn different things. So eventually earned my clothes back and then my like ability to go off base and stuff. This is my room in AIT, obviously, once I earned my civilian clothing back. And that's my bed, so I didn't have like any comfy blankets or anything. Still had to make your bed every day. Although this is actually a terrible, look, I would have gotten in trouble if they'd walked in. This is a terrible bed making. Sheets are loose. I'd probably already been laying on it or something. But that's, as comfy as it gets. So my job, again, was an imagery intelligence analyst. My first duty station was 2ID, our 2nd Infantry Division in Camp Red Cloud, Uijeongbu, which is in South Korea. So after my AIT, which was in Arizona. Oh, I didn't even say. My basic training was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Then I went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona for 8 months. And then this is Camp Red Cloud in South Korea. And my job there was to look at satellite imagery. And my specific job was to look at North Korea to see if they were launching missiles. And I was trying to find if they were going to launch a missile called the Taepodong missile, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile. And an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, is a missile that can go from their country to another continent, right? To basically, we were trying to see if they could come to our country. Because if they could attach a nuclear warhead on top of it, then that's not good, right? And if you look at these are not either of my product nor is it of my office, but just to give you an idea, because all of my stuff is classified. This is what my office would look like. So you'd have multiple screens in a dark room. I had a top secret SCI security clearance, which means it's like a step above top secret. I had to get a polygraph. I had a full FBI investigation on my family and myself. They interviewed my bosses that I'd had prior and my friends and my family. And then in order to get in my office, we worked in a bunker in the side of a mountain. So I had to go through like 4 different security checkpoints just to get to my office. But anyway, these are the type of things I was making, products. So this one's unclassified, which is why I can share it with you. It's not mine. It's just an example. But when I'm looking for the Taepodong missile, we'd look in what's called electro-optical imagery, which is like regular, color imagery. And then we'd also look in infrared. There's different types of other imagery you can use to see like, okay, well, we know that site's active because you can see the pipes in the ground have hot water running in them, and they would only have hot water running in them if you're going to use those sites, right? Because infrared measures heat, that type of thing. That's what I did there. I'm actually in this picture somewhere. I can't really remember. I think right here or right here, but couldn't tell you exactly where. This was an awful day and it was freezing and we got rained in our dress greens. We got rained on. So if I guess my e-learners wouldn't be in JROTC, but yeah, to get your uniform wet sucks. This is what Camp Red Cloud or Uijeongbu looks like. This is the city that my base was in. So this is the civilian city, but it was really cool. It was really modern. I loved South Korea. It was an amazing place. If you ever begin to travel in your life, I definitely recommend going to Seoul. South Korea was really fun. This was my best friend. Her name was Noelle Pagliaro. She died, but not from like military stuff. She overdosed. So sad story. But anyway, she was my best friend in Korea. She got me through it. It's hard to be away from your family. I got there a week before Christmas, and so I didn't know anyone during Christmas. I was 20 years old. But we made a lot of good friends, and you kind of like develop a family. Uijeongbu or Camp Red Cloud was really tiny, so you get to know like everyone on the base. It was quite an experience. This is when I was a private, little baby private. So we did a week in the field at one point, and this is my unit. So all these people are in intelligence. They're not necessarily imagery analysts. I was the only imagery analyst. Actually, I had one sergeant, but he didn't actually ever do his job, so I was the only one who actually did it. But these are, all source analysts, which is a different type of intelligence, or human, or SIGINT. There's different types of intelligence. But we went into the field, do our nav training, our MOUT training, our combat lifesaver training, work on putting our gas masks on, and we got to just like hike. It was actually really fun. But ironically, it was in April, and I'd been there in December, so I'd been there for about 4 months watching that missile, looking for that missile, watching the launch site, knowing it was going to launch. And when I was in the field and I wasn't watching it, it freaking launched. So I missed it. It sucked. But this is just us on that trip. So we got to climb a mountain because it was nav training. This is us practicing our gear. I don't honestly remember what we're doing in this one. Just posing for a picture. Who knows? When I left South Korea, I went to Fort Hood, Texas, and I was stationed with Task Force Odin, or assigned to Task Force Odin, which Odin stands for Observe, Detect, Identify, and Neutralize. It was an intelligence unit specifically intended to deploy. So when I was in South Korea and I got my orders to Fort Hood for Task Force Odin, I knew that I was going to deploy to Afghanistan. But I got promoted first, so this is to the rank of Specialist, or E4. And for example, this guy, Sergeant Barber, he's now a Chief Warrant Officer, still in my life, still friends with. On Facebook, we don't see each other. This was my unit, so as much as I loved my job, this was, I'll be honest, my worst unit. That's me right there. I didn't like a lot of the people in this unit. They were nasty. So we did deploy, so this is us leaving. This is when we got to Kandahar, which is where I went to CAF, or Kandahar Airfield, which is a NATO base in Afghanistan. This is us getting ready to leave. We're just waiting to go. And then this is inside of the C-130. This is an aerial image of Kandahar. It's huge. So since it's a NATO base, what that means is there's a lot of countries there, and it's, they work together. So there were actually 25,000 people on this base, from all different countries. So for the first few months, I lived in one of these little buildings. Not necessarily that one. I don't remember exactly which one it was. So anything on this side of the road basically is the air base, or the airfield. So you can see your helicopters and stuff like that. This was the DFAC, which is your cafeteria or your dining facility. I'm trying to see if I can recognize anything else. There's gyms. There's 5 or 6 DFACs. There's gyms, all kinds of stuff. This is some more images from my deployment. So this is where we got rocket attacks a lot. That was the most dangerous part for me because I'm what you would call a FOBIT. I didn't really leave the base. I was relatively safe compared to infantry guy or anyone who's leaving the base. But you would still get rockets that would hit, and that's the devastation. This is me actually in Kazakhstan or Kuwait. Kazakhstan, I think, waiting to get cleared to go into Afghanistan. So we spent 18 days just waiting. Sometimes, if you look at this image, this is all that was between you and the rest of Afghanistan. So a chain link fence and some barbed wire. Let's see. Oh, this is just showing you they drive on the other side of the car, but on the same side of the road over there. So when I got home from Afghanistan, what would have been my blinker was my windshield wiper. They were backwards, so I kept turning my windshield wipers on instead of my blinker. I'd been there a year, and you're driving in these little old vans on dirt roads. So we never went more than 20 miles an hour. And so when I got home and got on a highway, it was scary almost. I hadn't gone, 65 miles an hour in over a year. These are just a couple different pictures of different rooms I had. So this one was in Afghanistan, and you can see you get a little bit of storage. This is that same room. I read a lot. You get some time to read. I like reading. And then this is another room I had in Afghanistan. This is when I was married. I'm still married, but not to that person. But he was in Special Forces and got deployed to the same Kandahar as well. And so there was a period where we got to share a room. But Special Forces have, if you can tell, a little bit more luxurious quarters. So I got to live with him for a little bit. Every week they would hold or host a bazaar, which is a marketplace for the locals to come in and sell goods. So these little boys would sell these bracelets, and they would cry if you didn't buy them. So I bought one every week. This is what's literally called the poop pond. So all of your poop and your pee would literally be like sent to this, and it would be disgusting, and it smelled really bad at all times. You can imagine how hot it gets, and the air was nasty, although this is during a dust storm. That's why it's so foggy. So anytime there's a dust storm, this is what it looked like. It was disgusting. You find all kinds of different ways to work out. Even though there's a gym, you don't always have time to get to it in Afghanistan. So this is Sergeant Smallwood, and he had like chained a cinder block to his waist and was doing chin-ups. This is just where a rocket hit, and they filled the dirt road back in, and this was like 20 feet away, and you can see all this shrapnel. This is where another rocket hit. I was just showing you the size of what happens when they hit. This is the facility that I worked in, and these type of facilities are called a TOC, but they have no windows because when you're working in intelligence, you don't want anyone to use any kind of surveillance to get in and see what you're doing. Can't bring your phone in there. Not that I had an operating phone in Afghanistan, but can't bring any kind of like technology in there. Couldn't even have a Kindle in there. And it's set up like stadium style seating, like when you see in the movies where it's like just tons of people looking at massive screens. That's really what it looks like. This is Gonzalez, what's his name? He was actually a terrible person to this day. Don't like him. But he was being a jerk one day and was forced to do push-ups all the way up these stairs. And this is Sergeant Roman. He was a sergeant first class and like a dad to me. I loved him. These are different promotions that happened in Afghanistan. So while I was in Afghanistan, I got promoted to the rank of sergeant, or E5. That was really special to me. And this is Sergeant First Class Law. Oh no, this was the officer. I don't even remember him because he was barely around. This is Smallwood, the guy that was doing the chin-ups with the cinder block. He got promoted while he was there. And then this is Benugli. Like, so these are all people. So this is, I went in 2010 and 11, so it's like almost 10 years ago, and I can still vividly remember all these people because you go through this wild experience with them. This is Sergeant Roman, the one I told you about, and then Sergeant First Class Locke, who they were like dads to me. They're awesome. I can't show you this video when I'm recording, but if you YouTube like, oh man, I don't know, you can YouTube videos, but it would show you this, what I did in Afghanistan. So in Afghanistan, I wasn't looking at still motion imagery. I was looking at full motion. Oh, I said still motion, still imagery. I was looking at full motion video, which is like basically it's not a drone, but it's like drone imagery if you've seen that. So we used a different kind of plane. I don't even know if I can say, so I won't, but that had people in it, and they would fly and then have a camera, and then I'd be on the TOC at base, and I would tell them, move the camera north, this way, that way, look at that building, for different reasons. So we'd either be trying to find IEDs in the road, so you can see the road where it's like kind of like different looking. I don't know how to explain it in civilian terms. Or I'd be following a squad or a patrol as they cleared a village and trying to see if there were, hey, there's a guy on the roof 3 houses ahead. It looks like he might have a gun. Or we would follow high value targets. So one of our biggest missions, most important missions, was to follow people who we knew were terrorists and try to find their boss, and then who was their boss. And eventually, if we got to what we'd call a high value target, then that's the neutralized part of Task Force Odin. So we would kill them. That's as much as I'll say about that. Oh, it's going to show the video. Okay, so I'm going to let this video play. It's not a video that I was on. This is just one that you can actually find on YouTube. Everything I have is classified. So this first one, they're digging an IED. So now you can see what I was talking about. Oh, I'm so excited because in the past, the embedded videos haven't played. So they're putting the IED in on the road right now. That's the dark image. And then you'll see they're going to cover it up with dirt. And I'm going to just be quiet while you guys watch. So now you can see that it's covered up with dirt, so that any convoy driving along that road of American soldiers, or I worked with Canadians, and I worked with a lot of different countries, British, but anyway, none of them, if any of them are driving along the road, then if the IED is covered up by dirt, they may not see it, drive over it, and it explodes. So if we could find one, we would get the coordinates and then let them know, hey, there's an IED there, and not only would we be aware of it, but we would be able to like go set it off in a safe way so it didn't blow anyone up. But yeah, so these guys are going to get into the truck and then drive away. And everything, by the way, these things that are gray on the screen, all the block boxes, they're not a glitch. That's just because there's classified information. So like their geo coordinates and how many feet from the ground this, because I don't know if this is a predator or a drone or a manned plane that's taking this video, but those coordinates and that information is being covered up for classification reasons. So this is a guy, I think we just shot at him. I don't know if it's because there's not a lot of information on this YouTube video. I don't know if it's related to the men who planted the IED or if this is just different, but sometimes this is what it would look like. So we would have, you know, an unmanned plane in the sky, and then we'd also have like a helicopter come for backup, and they would have, you know, either machine guns or Hellfire missiles, and we would watch them as they tried to eliminate these terrorists. And this is the quality of the imagery we were seeing sometimes. They're in infrared right now, so you can see light and dark, but they can also switch into electro-optical imagery, which is like, you know, regular colors, like I was trying to tell you. So if they shoot at this person, that means he's a high-value target. I'm not sure what they're doing. So you can see him white on the road because that's infrared imagery, right? Oh, so they are shooting at him. That's what that looks like. That looked like it was a Hellfire missile. So a Hellfire missile is one missile that you launch, and it's not great for when you're trying to kill one person. A Hellfire missile is better for like a building, because if it doesn't hit you and it lands 2 feet away, it doesn't do anything to you. Where like if you have a machine gun, which is what my unit chose to use most of the time, they would just unload an entire machine gun on this guy. I think I'm going to go forward because this gives you a good idea, but this is what I did in Afghanistan, right? So either find high-value targets, protect our troops. Oh wait, I want to see what this is. Or find IEDs. But let's see what's going on here. This might be like a patrol of soldiers that we're monitoring, or this might be just bad guys. Anyway, so I would do this for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I would get 1 day off in Afghanistan. Oh, yep, those were bad guys. And I was there for 42 days before I got my first day off. And on my first day off, I was in my room, and all the time we'd get rocket attacks, and the alarm system would go off, and it would say, rocket attack, like in a British accent. And so you're supposed to throw yourself to the ground, because if a missile hits, it's filled with shrapnel, and the shrapnel kind of flies upwards, so the lower to the ground you are, the safer. But after a couple months, I stopped throwing myself to the ground because they weren't very accurate at aiming. They just hit random things. And like, honestly, if it's going to hit you, it's going to hit you. But anyway, I was there for 42 days before I got a day off. And on my day off, I'm in my room, I'm sleeping, and I hear a different alarm go off. And I can't tell what it's saying. And I just know that it's a different alarm. And so I stick my head out of my room, and it's saying mass casualty, mass casualty. Okay, I'm going to go forward because you've already seen this. But they tried to break into our camp with an IED on a tractor, and they got stuck at the fence, and it went off, and they killed themselves. But it was scary for a while because I didn't know what was going on. All right, this is just a better idea of what the electro-optical imagery I looked at looked like. So for example, if I knew that there was going to be a patrol and they were going to come try to clear this compound, is what it's called. Like this is like one house and that's their yard. And they think there's a high-value target there and they're going to send men in, I would tell them exactly what to expect. So we would use planes and imagery to see like, okay, there's a door here, there's a door here, there's 2 windows here. 2 dogs live in this building. The woman cooks right here. She leaves at 3 o'clock, and give them as much intelligence as we could before they went in, so they knew what they were getting into. This is going to be scary looking for a second, but just know this is all fake. So while you are in the military, you're supposed to do Combat Lifesavers course once a year. I think that's me. I didn't even realize that, but I think that is me. I don't know. That looks not like my body. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, so what we would do is we practice rollover drills. So this is a Humvee that they intentionally put on this contraption that they can roll it upside down. So like as if you were in a convoy and you got hit and your Humvee got tipped upside down, they fill it with like 2,000 empty water bottles just to create like a ruckus. And you're strapped in upside down. You have to get out, and then they throw like a little smoke bomb type thing in there. So these are the people getting out. So I had to go through this. And then they have all these fake injuries, right? So they look gross, but they're all fake, so don't be too concerned. And you have to go to all these people, so like that's a fake arm. This is a real person, but fake injuries, fake blood. And you have to administer life-saving things on them. So whether it's apply a tourniquet or a field dressing, or, you know, we had to practice giving IVs. We did not give IVs in Afghanistan. You learn that in basic training. And it was like 100 degrees. You're in all this battle rattle. Can you imagine like how hot and heavy this stuff is? You have a gun on you, and it was a full week of training. This exact thing where you pull the people out of the car was only one day, but it was actually fun and crazy, and that was probably one of the best trainings I've had. So these are some of the actors. They're just soldiers, but so you can see how his arm's obviously a fake hand. That is me. And then this is Valdez. He was one of the soldiers in my unit. But this is just pictures to show you how good. Like, imagine trying to work on that. It was pretty nasty.